My name's Amberlin.
And my name's Linnae.
And today we're making ketchup.
Ain't nothing in the world that I like better than bacon and lettuce and homegrown tomatoes. Up in the morning and out in the garden, get your ripe one, don't get a hard one. Plant them in the spring, eat them in the summer. All winter without them's a culinary bummer. I forgot all about the sweating and the digging every time I go out and pick me a biggin'. Homegrown tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes. What'd life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes. Well, you can go out to eat, and that's for sure, but there's nothing that a homegrown tomato won't cure. Put them in a salad, put them in a stew. You can make your own very own tomato juice. You can eat them with eggs and eat them with gravy. You can eat them with beans, pinto or navy. Put them on the side, put them in the middle. A homegrown tomato on a hot cake griddle. Homegrown.
We have Roma paste, Bonnie Best, and Amish paste.
Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes. Life I lead, you could call me Johnny Tomato Seed, 'cause I know what this country needs is homegrown tomato in every yard you see. When I die, don't bury me in a box in a cold dark cemetery. Out in the garden would be much better, 'cause I could be a pushing up a homegrown tomatoes.
So we have a full pot of tomatoes here that we peeled, and there's just a little bit in here, but they won't fit in that pot. So I'm going to just split the difference, half in each pot, and then we're going to mash them down kind of and boil it down. Let it evaporate till it's about reduced by half. And all of this is going to the chickens.
Homegrown tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes. What'd life be without homegrown tomatoes? There's only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes. What'd life be without homegrown tomatoes? There's only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
At this stage, sometimes people will put spices into their ketchup. We actually haven't tried it, but I don't think we would be too keen on it. What do you guys think of having some ketchup made with cinnamon and allspice and anise?
Cinnamon? Allspice?
Anise?
Ew!
But keeping it more simple, that's what we're doing, like the Heinz ketchup, you know, what we're more familiar with. But people will take like bags. You could make a little bag with cheesecloth. They'll put spices such as cinnamon, mustard, bay leaves, allspice I think, anise, some of those more sweet spices, and they'll put them in the ketchup and let it kind of infuse and then take them out before they can it. But we're not doing that today.
So these are boiling down just lovely. This one is actually thicker because when I transferred the tomatoes into this pot, lots of the juice was actually left in this pot. So this one's runnier, even though it got to a boil sooner. So I've been skimming off the foam and just stirring it every once in a while. Get it moving every half hour or something. The boiling will keep it going. So now when it gets really thick like this, I found that it's best to not stir it too much, because then you just make the whole thing so thick and then it splats everywhere, and then you have to cover it and then it can't evaporate. I just stirred it, and that'll be the last stir. I probably give it for a while. I just turned the temperature down a bit so it's not quite as aggressive. It'll probably go on for about an hour.
So these are reduced very, very lovely. So I'm going to give them a final blend, and then I'm going to combine them together. I'm blending them separately because I find it blends better when it's in smaller amounts. I turned the burners off for that so that I wouldn't get all splatted up.
Beautiful, thick, sauce-like. Okay? This is even better. This is awesome. Look at that thick stuff. Combine them together. Here we go.
Homegrown tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes.
Now, we are going to put all the other ingredients in this pot. So these are all approximates. I've kind of adjusted it to my own taste and what I kind of like. So per quart of tomato sauce, and this is all approximate, I'm doing 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. And then also about 3/4 cup of cane sugar, organic cane sugar, you could use white sugar. And then about the same amount, maybe a little bit less, of vinegar. And we're using raw apple cider vinegar here. And yes, we're gonna cook it, but, so we're gonna add all those into our pot of tomato sauce. Garlic powder, this is our own garlic powder. Dump that in. Onion powder, 1 teaspoon per quart. Salt, 2 teaspoons per quart. That's all approximate. Sugar, that was about 7 cups. Now give it a stir and turn it back on to about medium. And we want this to kind of caramelize all together and also help boil down some of the vinegar. So you keep the acid, but just the water content boils down. And during this time, you may want to cover it because it splats like crazy. This isn't quite boiled down exactly by half, but it's pretty close. It's however concentrated you want it to be and how red you want it to be. And let it simmer for half hour to an hour. Also, if you wanted to use real garlic and real onion instead of powdered, that would be completely fine. You'd probably just want to boil it together with the tomatoes at like around this time and blend it in really good.
So this came to a simmer and I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not gonna stir it because I don't want it to splat everywhere. I'm taking the lid off so it can still evaporate and get thicker. So here we are about an hour later. We just finished supper. Mom's delicious tomato soup with garlic scate pesto and fresh carrots and also a carrot pie. It was just delicious. Anyway, this has been just continuing to simmer down very, very gently. And you can see the rich, deep, dark red that it has turned. It's kind of caramelized. It's ready to can. Preheating the jars, heating up my lids, and I'm gonna taste it, make sure it tastes good.
Something that's really good for taste testing your ketchup is to let it cool and then test it, and then you'll get the proper flavor. Unless you eat hot ketchup. So let this cool, come back to it and taste it. So, went through and tasted it, brought it up to Mom and Brooke. Mom thought it was great. The only other thing would be to possibly remove the seeds. If you wanted a smoother texture, just run it through a sieve, but we're not gonna do that today. So now we're going to move on and can it. Our jars are hot and our lids are ready, and this is simmering. So it's all ready to pour into hot jars and seal.
Homegrown tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes. What'd life be without homegrown tomatoes? There's only 2 things that money can't buy, and that's true love. Homegrown tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes. What'd life be without homegrown tomatoes? There's only 2 things that money can't buy, and that's true love. Homegrown tomatoes.
So there we have 8 quarts of ketchup. All homemade fresh ketchup from our own tomatoes. Look at that, all canned and ready for storage. Beautiful, beautiful.
Well, if you made it this far, thank you for watching our video, and we'd love to hear you in the comments below. And we hope that you can make your own ketchup and that you find great success with this recipe. Also, if you're interested, these are a bunch of homemade goat cheeses that my sisters make. And if you're interested in making goat cheese, we have a whole bunch of videos that you can check out on our channel as well. Until next time, see you later.
Where the meats of the garden lie scentless and dead, so soon may I follow when friendships decay, and from love